All right, so it's time. We've used the knowledge that we've gained to build our own little mini framework. Well, it's kind of small, so maybe it's a library. Well, either way, let's go ahead and use it on a web page, since in this case we're supporting jQuery. And even if we weren't supporting jQuery, we could use it maybe in some other way on the server. But let's go. Let's use our framework / library that we just built. So I have my immediately invoked function, and I have all of my code. By the way, if you ever see a library that does this, puts a semicolon before it, that's another trick. Just in case there's some other code, some other library that may be injected before the greeter.js in a script file, maybe above it, that doesn't quite finish out its semicolons properly. You can also put a semicolon there to make it more completely useful. In that, even if the other code doesn't finish its semicolons out properly, a code that's used above here, your code will still run fine. I just wanted to make mention of that because we'll see it sometimes used. All right, so I have it all now, and so I'm going to use it. What I want to do is on this little web page, I'm going to pretend that this is a login. If you're familiar with jQuery, what we're going to do is add a click event to this button, and when the button's clicked, we'll set the greeting based on the language that's chosen. We'll create a new object with the first name and last name. We'll just pretend that this login let us get the first name and last name of the person back from the server or something like that. And then we'll use our greeter to set this heading with an ID of greeting. And it needs to do so with the language that's chosen. And remember that the HTML greeting method already sets up the jQuery object. You just need to give it the selector. Would you like to try that yourself if you're familiar with jQuery? See if you can use the greeter. We already have it set up here. See if you can use it in order to call the HTML greeting with the appropriate selector and have the language set appropriately. I'll let you give that a try. All right. If you're not familiar with jQuery, or if you already tried it, just move along with me. I need a click event on the login button, which has an ID of login. So I'll just use jQuery, call the jQuery function, pass it the login ID, that # means ID, and a click event, and pass it a function object that I create on the fly with the function expression. Then I'm going to make a brand new object, let's say login greeter. I'll use $, that's my object, our object we just created, and we'll pretend that we know it's John Doe because of the username and password that they gave or something like that. And I'm going to go ahead and hide this entire select and button, this entire drop down and button. You didn't have to do this. After this, so it has an ID. And then I'm going to take my login greeter. I'm going to set its language. And you could have set the language here, kind of depending on how you want to do it, but I'll just do it to show chainable methods. I need the value of that select box. It has an ID of lang, and I need its value. So I'm going to pass its value, which is a string. There's the value. Pass it to set language. So now my login greeter object will have a language of whatever was chosen. And then I'll chain the method HTML greeting. I'll pass it the jQuery selector, which it'll use to create a jQuery object. And let's say I want a formal greeting, so I'll say true. Oh, and I'd like to log this to the console while I'm at it with a chainable method. Got that? So when I click the button, creates a new object using my function. I'm just going to hide the UI there, the interface, and I'm going to set the language based on what's chosen in the select box, chain a method that actually updates that h1 because it has an ID of greeting, right there. I want a formal one, and I also want to log it to the console, all in one line of code. Let's try it. Refresh. Login. Refresh. Spanish. Login. What about the console? There it is. Refresh. Login. Logged in. Refresh. Spanish. Login. And it logged it. It worked! We have a nice, clean, safe, reusable little mini framework or library that has some neat features that mimic the structure of jQuery and its approach with these chainable methods and a function that returns a new object without me having to use the new keyword. Pretty neat, right? What do you think? We have our own reusable mini framework or library. And you could use this in your apps right now if you wanted. So here's your homework for the future. Try adding another language. See if you can do that. Add support for another language. Add some methods. Add some alternate greetings. Play with this. See if it makes sense to you. The last thing we'll do is we'll add our comments. Remember, it's JavaScript, and in any programming language it's important to have comments, but especially with JavaScript. So I'll just add a little bit of commenting. So I'll have a commented up usage, and inside the actual app, we have that as well. Inside the actual framework and library, we have everything we need. And you can take a look at this code in the finished folder of the Let's Use Our Framework zip file. So I hope you appreciate how far you've come. We've built our own mini framework library by understanding JavaScript, how it works under the hood, and also by looking around a bit at the source code of jQuery. This is how you improve as a developer, by understanding how things really work and by looking at others' good code. So enjoy it. Remember that writing in JavaScript can be an extremely enjoyable experience as a developer because of the nature of the programming language. So don't be afraid of learning something new and trying it. Enjoy your JavaScript development. Enjoy all the parts of JavaScript, even the weird ones.